Places, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unsung. Today's guest is someone I think we all know. And, it's a funny thing. I've had so many bass players on this podcast, and you know what they say, that the drummer and the bass player get married in the studio and on the gig. And if that's the truth, I have got to be a polygamist. Without further ado, I do want to introduce you to a good friend and a great player. Ladies and gentlemen, Sciore.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm
Pleasure to
good.
be
How the
here.
hell are you?
I'm disgustingly perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
disgustingly.
Yeah, let's go with that.
That's a good place to be, brother.
Yeah, you betcha. I'm
Man.
perfect. I don't know about the marriage situation. I'm not going to even put any level of counseling towards that. But
You might have to.
I may need counseling if we were to be married. not to say that there's anything wrong with it. Quoting some famous comedian, but.
No,
No,
I met your
it's
wife,
cool.
and she's a wonderful lady. I'll stay out of the way. How's
So, all
that?
right, yeah. Well, my gal, she's a wonderful gal.
She is. She
Yeah,
is.
she does
Beautiful
what she can
woman. Very, what?
Very British.
Right.
Yes.
But just a pleasant demeanor.
Yeah. No, I've tried to Italianize her a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm not having too much success. But we can keep trying.
Hey, at least she eats the best food, no?
I try to cook that
Yeah.
way, and regardless of where the food palette may be, as long as it's good food, it's good food.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I know. You've informed me. We've talked at gigs about cooking and how to cook. And every time we talk about what you're cooking, it just makes me hungry every time.
Well, I like doing it because it's a wonderful way of A, meeting people, and B, just to me it's just another form of love. Really,
Right.
it is. Nourishment is number one for any human being, but from that aspect, I think musically you got to give that level of nourishment just as much, and I'm glad that we're musicians and we have that opportunity of dispensing it.
Right.
And to the best of our abilities.
In a sense, you're saying that cooking for you is an expression not unlike the expression of music.
Really, when you look at it, I mean, the first thing your mom ever gave you from Body Human was some kind of nourishment, right? And that carried on to probably until the day that she met the gods, okay? And I don't think that there's any mom on the face of this earth that would disagree with that. And that's the beauty of the female version of Body Human. And again, it's something that I cherish. But from a musical aspect, regardless of gender, we have an opportunity of dispensing an emotion through our levels of training and talent, and giving it to people that would learn to appreciate it, and maybe just sit back and just you're conveying a wonderful emotion to them. I mean, I don't know how many times you could play one or two licks of the first couple of chords of Bob Seger's Night Moves, and you play those first two chords and it takes people back.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
That in particular, the band, I used to work with the band in Banff, and we did Night Moves, and not only is it one of my favorite tunes, but yeah, every time, I'm like, we got to do it tonight. I got to play that tune.
Yeah.
So even from a player's perspective, it just felt so deep to me, so earthy to me.
Sure.
That song in particular.
Sure.
Yeah,
And isn't that an emotion?
of course.
Most certainly it is. And when you have the opportunity of being a musician and conveying that emotion, what a wonderful privilege. To me, I look back at some aspects of whatever musicality that I've been exposed to, and I like to be exposed to every style as best as possible. And if I had the opportunity, I like playing all styles. All right, I do. Whether it be blues, rock. I'm starting to learn a little bit more arco on the upright bass side. I can do a little bit more classical and other sort. But, you know, if you expand on every level of instrumentation, that's one thing, but who drives it, you know? And if you have that wonderful opportunity, to me, it's everything. And I look back at some of my original music teachers. I mean, I didn't start on bass. Like every normal Italian and or Polish and or Ukrainian family, here's your upright with bellows, you're playing accordion, shut up and play.
Now, wait a minute, were you born in Canada?
I was born here, yeah.
Okay.
But regardless of that, I mean, there's certain levels of upbringing that and traditions that you just don't want to detract, right? Regardless of that. And there's, you know, everybody that was growing up with it, I'm not going to say it's probably wasn't the real coolest instrument to be playing on. But then I heard Johnny Nash's "I Can See Clearly Now," and I said, "Oh, there's hope." You know, because I heard the accordion on that, and I said, "Okay, I can play some." And there's this wonderful music book, how to play rock and roll accordion. I'm saying, "Wow, okay, let's go with that one." But I morphed into.
It can't be a very thick book. Is it?
No, it's pretty thin. Yeah. Actually, Pat Bellavo brought it up to me. And said, wow. But wonderful musician as well.
Oh yes.
But I had the opportunity of morphing into bass, and of course, you know, being whatever band that you start with, of course, you know, drummers got to play drums, and guitarists got to play guitar, and piano, right? Well, who's playing bass? Oh, well, okay, I'll take a shot at it. Yeah, that was my kick at the can there.
Why not? I mean, the instrument that gets all the chicks. I mean, let's be honest here.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
It's like that joke. I mean, you reminded me, right? The guy tells his dad he wants to play bass, so he goes and takes a lesson, right? And dad comes back and says, you know, what'd you learn? I learned the A string. It's like, okay, great. You know, next week he comes back from his lesson, and his dad says, what do you learn? You know, I learned the B. You know, and then the next week the son doesn't come back, and it's like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Son walks through the door, and his dad says, where the hell were you? He said, I got my first gig.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That'll do it. Yeah. Yeah. Two notes. Ba-dum-bum. Yeah. Okay. You being a drummer, you know, there's a snare.
No, hey, I mean, hey, I know guys like you. I know guys like Steph. You know, I had Lisa Jacobs on. I know.
Wonderful gal, wonderful gentleman as well.
Yeah. Come on.
They're wonderful bassists.
Yes.
They're wonderful.
Yeah. To play any instrument in the hands, you know, which the people I've mentioned, yourself among them, it's not an easy task.
Well, what we try and do is make it look easy. Okay. I mean, that's part and parcel to conveying the musical emotion. Right? It really is part of your job too. I'd say so. And I don't want to treat it as a job, but again, the different styles of music that are out there, it's indelible to every musician, especially rhythm and another rhythm style harmony instrument like bass, to delve into. Why not? You know, there are so many different styles of rhythm out there, and when you're playing bass, it's, wow, there's an opportunity to delve into reggae or do just straight country, root and fifth, or do rock and roll and do a little bit of blues and do, you know, you're playing upright bass, okay, you're playing a little bit more jazz, or you're playing fusion on a fretless electric and other sorts. There's so many different venues for that musicality to be brought forth, and the opportunity, again, to convey that emotion. Music is an emotion. You have that wonderful privilege of putting it forward.
Right, and when you say privilege, it sounds to me like you're talking about the privilege of giving.
Why not?
Right. You're not really talking about a class distinction here, in terms of that type of privilege.
I don't even know if class falls into the foray here. I don't think it would, because then you start to classify. To me, there should be some level of openness that you know. They always say the human voice is the number one instrument. I'm going to disagree slightly, because when you see a kid growing up and you start doing, do they follow along? Yeah. Or are they going to be singing Carly Jepsen at age 1? No, I don't think so. Right? Are they going to be doing, you know, Elvis and no, but they know rhythm, and they have a capturable action towards it. And to me, that's the first instrument, is rhythm. Really, it is. You know, everything else follows up on that, and you follow the rhythm, which is a wonderful thing. Again, you being a drummer and myself being a bassist, I always say that regardless of the entities of the drummer, follow the drummer, okay? Because you have to give them that exponential level of respect.
We all intrinsically have music and art within us.
Sure.
And so the privilege can't be a class thing because it belongs to every one of
It
us.
disseminates and it dissects certain aspects of. If you were brought up within certain levels of musical environment, I get it. Those things are a little bit more prominent. All right, they would be a little bit more prominent. It's like going up to Johnny Cash and saying, "Well, you know, do you want to do some classical music? Maybe not." But he learned to respect it later on because he had the opportunity of engaging. And then when he was doing his solo work, I think that was probably the most down-to-earth situation that I've ever seen heard an artist do. Okay?
Right, that brings up to mind the song Hurt that he did with, what's his name, Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that is one of the most emotive songs in history.
And to do another artist's song in your style, in your voice, is an ultimate compliment for both the people that wrote it, that sang it originally, and the person that is doing it right now. To me, that is, it just basically resets the artistry to another level of canvas. You know, it really does. And again, conveying that emotion. I would listen to, you know, we talked about Johnny Cash, and then all of a sudden he's doing a Neil Diamond song. You know, don't know that I will until he did it in his own style, changed the key. That's fine to match his vocal projection. But wow, just hearing guitar and his voice, and maybe just a little bit of a shaker in the background, it just basically put the level of artistry to another domain.
Yeah, was that part of the Trent Reznor
Right?
series?
Yeah.
Hurt. I don't even know what to say about it. It's so honest. It's so raw. It's so dirty.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There is no clothing on this person. You are naked to the world, and you're presenting yourself as best you can with the level of artistry that you possess. And I wouldn't even say artistry is a level of possession. It's what you give. Okay? Right? Your possession is one thing, but that artistry really is free. All right? People should get paid for it in certain aspects, most certainly, but the very fact that a person has that ability to give it, again, is a privilege. I'm a fan of all music. I mean, I could just as easily listen to some of the most horrific lyrics that are being presented musically, you know, swearing this and that, but they are basically maintaining that level of emotion and putting it forward because there are people within the same boat, they're within the same realm. To me, that's almost like a different form of blues. Blues is basically from the heart. It totally is.
Right. Especially, I mean, they say that form is one of the most historical forms
Sure.
of music. But even if you take it, you know, if you take it back to Delta South, music was an honest representation of
Sure.
the black experience.
Okay.
And
A little bit along the same lines in Chicago. Wasn't there something along the same lines, let's say, in Montreal? There is.
well, it made its way, right? It made its way out of the South.
But it didn't. It may have had some level of reference, but it has a different set of emotion and a different set of environment. For me, any type of blues style of music, to me, Jamaican reggae is blues. It is basically their form of blues, you know. And I recall one time we were playing at this one gig, and a wonderful young lady come up and said, "Can you play any country?" And I says, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So next tune up, I did something by Peter Tosh. And she came with a little bit of a perplexed look to say, "I thought you were going to play country." And I said, Jamaica's a country.
But
You know,
I was waiting for that.
You know,
Yeah,
so,
which country, right?
You know,
Yeah.
so again, blues is an orientated style of emotion that basically is from the heart and is put through different chord arrangements. I listened to some of the Desiree music from Turkey and Mesopotamia. I mean, that's where some of the original reggae actually started. Wow, that is something. Listening to that stuff. Even some of the gypsy music, the songs of the Le Gitan in France or of the sort, the Zingari in Italy. Wow, you know, that's orientated music towards their environment. Wonderful. Bring it forward.
Right.
You know?
And it, in your estimation, because you seem to have a history in this, in your estimation, does the blues include aspects of both celebration and struggle?
Celebration, rejoice, struggle, life.
Life, right? Yeah.
You know,
Not appealing to the most primitive part of the brain.
perhaps not.
Right.
Perhaps not, but music has a wonderful way of emotional process. It really does. To somebody that is maybe not musically inclined, but for even more people that are musically inclined, and we talked about, you know, you listen to the first two chords of a Bob Seger song and it just takes you right back.
We were talking about Night Moves.
Night Moves.
Yeah.
Right?
Beautiful tune.
Yeah.
Another beautiful
It knocks you. It knocks you. You know, receptor, processor, driver.
Beautiful.
I think that's basically what music is all about. And for some people, yeah, it might drive it a different way. For some people that don't have the process, in other words, they're not open to different styles of music, that's sad. Right? To me, it's a sad entity. It
Yeah,
really
but
is.
that's also, I think, cultural education.
Is it
or lack
cultural,
thereof.
or is it
Yeah.
taste, or is it some kind of level of deficiency? I'm going with deficiency.
Okay.
All right? And I'll say that out loud.
Yeah.
Because for people not to sit back and listen to a country tune, or listen to a rock tune, or listen to a classical tune, you know, come on. There's an opportunity of engaging in a different style of music. Why not? Try it. Yeah. How many radio stations do you know of that can cover the spectrum of all styles of music? Not too many,
Not too many.
right?
They can't. They have to sell shit.
And they got bills to pay and this and
Yeah.
that. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. But if you have that wonderful opportunity of engaging yourself in those different styles of music, it makes you a better person, one. But as a musician, if you have an opportunity of playing it, it makes you a better musician.
Mm.
It totally does.
Of course.
You know, I mean, I don't see an opportunity of sitting down if we were to play a jazz or a fusion band. I mean, that would be fun.
Wouldn't it?
Sure. Grab my fretless bass and see what happens, and you know.
But isn't that part of what you're saying, you know, is that the stage, music art, the stage, are all transcendent entities. Like they transcend race, religion, you know, all of these things that we hold on to so dear.
Yeah.
Outside of that, these sacred spaces and I suppose if I can say without too much religiosity, the sacred space of art and music are ones that transcend and they bring us together.
Sure.
I know that camaraderie. I was on a podcast last night. I talked about being in the studio and that level of passion and aggression, sometimes anger, sometimes trying to figure it out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where your emotions are so high. But when you come out of that experience, you have experienced a new level of brotherhood and sisterhood.
Of love.
Of love, right? Even through the shed.
The stupidity of it is of love. I'm sorry. Music is an emotion. It's not a huggy feely type emotion, but it most certainly can set a different domain for your line of thinking, for your line of reasoning, for your they've always looked at. I remember they did this one special where they were talking with Gordon Sumner Sting, and they were
Yeah, good old Gord.
Yeah, Gordo. Hey, Gordon. Yeah, right. Again, great bass player, great musician. How how he, and you talk about transcending, but how he basically takes any style of music and applies certain lyrics to it that have some kind of thought process, all right? You know, when you hear the music, it's one thing. When you listen, you start to use a level of process. Okay? Because listening, especially with lyrics, and sometimes even, you know, I put out a CD just with, you know, I didn't put any lyrics, I didn't put my voice on. My next CD, I'm gonna try doing that. I figure if Dylan can do it, I can do it. But, you know, doing instrumentals and other sort, how do you, to me, an instrumental style of song has to grab people in a different way, all right? When you do it with lyrics and other sort, that's where there's another thought process, all right? Because you're not just listening, or you're not just hearing, you're listening. You're actually doing a process, right? You're actually taking some of the words and putting it forward. I know that there's some lyrics that are a little bit iffy and other sort, but geez, when you listen to them, you say to yourself, oh, I know what that dude's talking about, you know?
Right.
Or, I know what that gal is talking about, you know? This, you know, Alanis Morissette, like when she had some very suggestive lyrics.
Oh, I always defer to Alanis Morissette
Yeah.
because it's the difference between, let's say, Tiny Tim,
Yeah.
and, you know, which to me is cute and fine and it has its place. But Alanis Morissette, especially Jagged Little Pill,
Right.
we will not, I don't think, have a debate on how real
Right.
that record was
Right.
in terms of its lyrical content. It was the one of the ultimate, I think, struggling albums
Sure.
of all time.
Yeah.
And she pulled no punches on that record.
And here we were talking about blues and the emotion and other sort. Well, that's another form.
Right, you know, as long as it's honest, man.
Or you know, indicating where the dishonesty is sometimes, you know, where you can take it. I mean, I know that there's some people that have, again, if they don't like a style of music, it turns me off. It really does, all right? Because you're missing out on an opportunity. Maybe it doesn't give you a different emotional sense. I get it. But it's still a piece of music. It's still something that should be honored and respected. And if you don't have the honor and respect, okay, I get it. All right?
Yeah, well, I think that as a society, you know, I go deep here, because as a society, I think in some ways there has been a subtle, a subtle suggestion that we move away from the fact that of our intrinsic humanity and the things that we actually possess in us, and we've opted for the professionals to do those things, when really music and art are intrinsic, I believe, to every human being.
Yeah.
Whether people pursue those things or not is another thing. But once again, you know, you don't ask a little 10-year-old girl, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she says, I want to be the mail clerk in Amazon. Yeah, that's not a dream. That's a necessity.
Or that could be a reality when
Or a
comes to
stark
that.
reality. But she's not going to answer you that
And
way.
there's nothing ignoble about that. That's very noble.
Oh, I'm not saying that. Well, I'm not saying that the fact that someone would do that as a necessity is not honorable in the sense of their responsibilities. I'm just saying that they wouldn't dream of that.
Right.
They would dream of ballerina. They would dream of doctor or a lawyer or something, anything. And I've started to kind of reduce this. Typically, the dreams, I think, align either with art or science.
But science is another art.
Right. Well, the arts and sciences were always collected. They were housed together because the art was the esoteric, philosophical side of science, and science was the pragmatic side of itself.
So if you put a scientific entity, that's why we have domestic engineers. You know, I'm sorry. Some people that stay at home and take care of their kids and take care of the household and other sort. Yes, it's not gender based, much not as gender based as what we grew up with now, right?
Of course not, but it's absolutely paramount to the growth of a young individual.
Again, and it's an unbelievable vocation to take forward. You know, I look at some people that are, let's say, that are cooks. I'd like to raise that bar a little bit more to say, you're a food engineer. Because you're basically taking different components and you're making up a meal for somebody to consume. And hopefully like, okay? Hopefully like.
Hopefully like it. That's
Hopefully.
why I don't cook. But yeah.
No,
yeah.
but-
But no, there again, everyone cooks,
Right.
don't they? Yeah.
Okay, but, you know, if your meal is along the way that you hear a ting before it, well, okay, at least somebody took the time to put all those ingredients and give you at least a marginal cooking dispensation of, give me a minute at high power and we'll call it a day and ready to eat, fine.
Yeah, well, in that respect, Pan, then I am a culinary
There you
engineer.
go. Okay.
You know how hard it is to run that fucking
Okay,
microwave?
so there
I
you
mean,
go,
come
all
on.
right? You know, I'm not denigrating any portion of that. But again, I don't want to dissect it to a point to saying music is a process. It is when you're writing. It is when you're producing. It is when you're putting it out.
It is when you're learning.
But when you're on stage, and I recall one time you were saying this at a gig, to say no matter how many times you play the song, every time you play it live, it's a different version.
Absolutely.
All right? And solely because of the fact that, hey, we're human. We're a huggy-feely type species. We may have had a bad day that day, or we may have had a good day and we forgot the chords or forgot the lick or something like that. Okay. But it's a different way of doing it. But that's what it's all about, is that you have that opportunity of giving it, all right? Of putting it forward.
Right, and you know, I mean, both I think are valuable, and both are okay. I think that, you know, like if you're doing a classical piece, and you're doing it night after night, you're doing Broadway, you're doing the West End, any of these type of shows. Of course, in that execution is key, and you know the redundant execution, perfect execution of what is written, is absolute. Although even in that, I've found, when I worked in these arenas. That when you got the show down, when you understood what the conductor wanted and what the show needed, and you got everything right, you could nuance it a little bit. But nuance is part of our expression, right? If I'm playing with Elton John in Vegas, he may want me to play a certain way, and I'll do that. But if I'm playing Elton John's song in Calgary with the band, we might expand it and take it out. I mean,
Sure.
Both are fair, both are equitable. And both should be honored and respected.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
And there's no, you can't back down again on the opportunity, right? And the opportunity, when it does present itself, you do your best with what level of experience you have. You do your best with what level of engagement you have, and hopefully, you don't have any. There are some situations where you're going to have some qualms and other sort. I get that, but professionalism is all about that as well, right? If somebody hands you a piece of music, and this is I've always stated this: you want to shut a bass player up, put a chart in front of them. That's the first thing. And I remember doing this stuff for Bluesland, and I had a short time frame to put this baby together, and it was less than a couple of weeks, and there's no music, no thing. That's the first time I really wanted something in front of me, at least a chord chart or something. But I wrote out whatever I could, listened to whatever I could. But again, it's just taking that level of conveyance and putting it forward. And I know we can talk Bluesland everybody. I know we're on hold right now, but hopefully there'll be another opportunity going forward. But we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah.
That was a good run. Of course, that's where Brian Zarnicki came from.
And again, I empathize with the whole situation, because when I was consulted, I basically put it back to say, look, if Brian has a resurgence of health, and I am out.
Yeah, of course, that was very benevolent of you.
I had to. I mean, that to me is a level of musical karma. All right. I mean, you don't replace a guy like Brian Zarnicki. You just don't. You just do your best at the musical level that you're trained at, or at your level of musical dispense, and have some fun.
Yeah.
And make sure that everybody else is having fun with you.
Right.
Right.
And in terms of Brian, I love the guy. He he was curmudgeonly, but for all the right reasons. You know what I mean? I mean, he had a side to him that, although could be taken negatively, it was honest. And I really loved that about him. You know, the fact that you know, everything wasn't roses, but he could define what he meant. You know, he could define what he was talking about in his emotions. You know, him and I used to talk about, and I'm saying not that long ago, about the civic nature of music in the city. And, you know, the fact that him and I would both observe that, you know, at certain points there would be a demarcation point. And at some point there would be a denigration of some factor, meaning that there was one less club or there was blah, blah, blah. And so instead of, when it dropped, instead of it coming back to its current demarcation point, it would land somewhere shy of that. So this would become the new normal in that case. And then when there was another denigration or whatever, it would come back to here, but it would never match. So it would, right until finally you find yourself sort of, what's the word, confined into a very small space. And, you know, that was an honest observance, because him and I both, you know, did a lot of work in the local scene. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
did you ever notice it?
We'll always point back to what once was. I look at it to say, what was the best times of your life? You know, it was basically your youth, you know. Wow, you know, let's go for a bike ride, let's go swimming, let's go do this, and not have to worry about that, not have to worry about a mortgage or what have you, you know. It was fun, it was fun. Okay, if we were to stop there and just say, where can we inject the fun again? Because if you make it fun, people will come. Okay? You have to recreate. Yes, that club is shut down. This venue is shut down. No question, there's been denigration, as you call it. But there's also opportunity. There's also that, hey, we can start something here. Let's try something. It might be different. We have to have a different level of expectation, not only monetarily, but even sometimes musically. I look at the whole presentation of some bands, and some bands are just at the point, well, learn it how it was on the record. Really? You're a musician. Put your artistry into play. Try something different, right? And don't be afraid of doing a little bit of dance moves up there. I mean, you got this. As a bassist, you got this piece of garbage with four or five or six strings on it and frets, sometimes fretless. Get into it. You know?
Right, even Zappa understood the aspect of entertainment.
You gotta
and believed that he should entertain.
Yeah, you got to give just as much an act. The musicianship has to be A1. It has to be as best as it possibly can be. But what people will remember is how good of a time you had, and how it rubbed off onto them.
Well, and that's our responsibility. That's why it's so important for us to get it right and to follow I think the ethic of mastery, and you know, being curated at what we do, because the more we are that, the more experience we present to the audience.
Yes.
The more they feel and are able to feel, because of the fact that, you know, like when you say, you know, you make it look easy on the bass, it's because you can. It's because your headroom is so far above what you're playing at the moment that that's a relaxed state of being. That's why you practice, to create that headroom, right? And so it is an unselfish act to get good at what we do so that we can better portray to an audience the emotions that they would like to feel in those moments, yes?
Again, reiterating the fact that it's still an emotion. And if you carry it forward, if you convey it in some way, shape, or form, and you engage with them and you involve with them, that's what they will remember. And at least have an opportunity of representing itself and representing it in other venues. Why is it that it has to be at a certain club? Why is it that it has to be at a downtown open air concert? Why not this? Why not? Open up to those situations. And when you present that opportunity forward, I know that the opportunity right now is probably a little bit more profound because of the because of the stupidity, the COVIDity stupidity that we've engaged in these past couple of years. People are still walking on eggshells. I get it, you know. Yes, this thing is, you know.
So you're saying that opportunity isn't presenting itself as readily as it may have prior to?
I think the opportunity is presenting itself right now, and you have to make the product available. You just make the product available. Because when you do that, then, you know, opportunities will render themselves.
Right, I think there's, to me, opportunity is certainly something you create. You create your own opportunities. How many times have we heard that? It's cliche, right?
Sure.
And I don't disagree that in some respects you do create your opportunities. But opportunities are also extrinsic. So opportunity is the fact that something exists, and that, because like I said to you before, the greatest gift I think you can give someone is not money, it's opportunity. So in respect to, it's not our job to necessarily know or drive hard after what something is going to look like or how something is going to present itself. It's our responsibility to be ready when it does.
Sure.
Right? That's why I think mastery and these types of things are so important. So to me, the opportunity is something that is perhaps more of a community-based, civic, tribal, in the good sense of the word, tribal construct that is there for people that can prove their ability in that moment of opportunity.
Okay. Do you have an opportunity to put your product out there? If you don't, create one. If you don't, be artistic and go into different styles of venues and say to yourself, maybe this will work. Give it a shot. Yeah, the first couple of gigs might not be paying anything, right? I get it. But if somebody has an opportunity to view and say, I like that, well, there's the product. Okay? There's the product.
Agreed.
Because live music, I recall one time going to, they asked me to go to a clinic. I don't know why, because whatever bass player I am, okay, whatever. So I go over there, and everybody, and this was, you know, not too long ago, everybody was just looking at their smartphones and this and that. And I was looking around, I plugged my bass in, and I'm saying, Jesus, that's going to be a tough go, right? So I started playing the lick on Under Pressure. All of a sudden the cell phones went down, people started looking up, right? It's a simple lick for bassists, but you make it sound simple and you put the complexities out there. What caught them? It's that emotion. That's that first instinct and first level of contact. And if you didn't have the opportunity to present it, well, you know, make one.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Make one. Create one. You're an artist? Good. Do the artistry portion just as much as the musicality of it. Because in live music, to me, is a wonderful level of representation of emotion. It totally is.
Are you saying put the business aspect on par or at level with or
The
whatever?
business aspect is probably going to create itself after the fact. I hate the two words, music business, and to me it's like.
So do I.
To me, it's like two words that shouldn't belong together, like disposable income. What, you got money, you're going to throw it away? Come on.
Right.
You know, get real
Right.
here, right? But if you have, we all like the emotional aspect of music because we're musicians. Again, reiterating the fact that we can convey that emotion forward and the privilege and the opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity is not there. Well, you're going to have to get a little bit creative here and create one.
Well, I would say we have to get a lot more creative these days.
Oh,
Come on,
most certainly.
Come on, let's be honest about that. Let's talk about efficacy of that then, of opportunity. Let's talk about the efficacy of opportunity. And you and I, before we went on, we were talking about Spotify.
Yeah.
I think one of the most egregious things that has ever happened to musicians, but you can debate me on that all you want. But once again, I observe, and I'm not being negative for negative's sake. I mean, the reason that you might see a problem is not necessarily just for the problem itself, it's to ultimately have a solution. So I'm not mired in problems or difficulties. I only see something that could be different, and therefore I want to dialogue about that thing in order to ultimately make something better. So, Spotify.
I wouldn't denigrate Spotify. I would not. Okay?
Okay, let me give my argument, and then you see what you think. Spotify. A platform in which even the greatest of, although if you're Joe Rogan or Neil Young, for that matter, you're going to make a shitload, but not from the plays. Joe Rogan got signed for $100 million with Spotify, just signed to a $100 million contract. He didn't have to do a play. Now, mind you, his content is on Spotify, but that's irregardless of that. He doesn't have to. That million or 100 million isn't coming from the plays that he gets, because we know that the plays that an individual artist get are fractions of pennies per play, per download, right? But it almost seems like, in respect to that, we will screw ourselves even harder just so that we still have some sort of something to brag about, some sort of celebrity. So we can see that we've got 9 million hits. And oh my God, we'll talk about that for days. I've got 9 million hits on Spotify. So we satisfy that one portion of ourselves, which is the egoic sense of self, right? At the same time, screwing ourselves out of what is fair and equitable in terms of our subsistence, in terms of our being able to survive on the planet. So I'm not looking at Spotify and the individuals of Spotify and saying that they're the evil incarnate. What I'm saying is that the platform may not be effective.
Right.
What do you think?
Okay, so I'm not going to denigrate Spotify, CD Baby. My stuff is on CD Baby. I seem to have a decent rapport with them. Apple. I mean, Apple takes 54% of every play. Which is,
right, and in terms of Spotify, that seems kind. But yes.
But again, but you bring up two interesting aspects to say that the streaming of music was another entity that people expounded upon and say, oh, there's an opportunity. Well, now they found out how that opportunity kind of played out, and people are starting to backtrack. They're creating a void. When they create that void, there's going to be demand. What about live music? What about creating your own website or webcast to say, hey, we got a concert. Yeah, how many people tune in? Yeah, okay. How many advertisers can you get on board? Yeah, give me 5 cents. Give me 2 cents. Give me a penny. Right? If you get 100,000 hits, hey, that's $1,000 you never had.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So you have to be a little bit more creative in that sense.
No, I don't disagree with you.
And the musical aspect is a wonderful thing, but how you put it forward, the one expression that I like best is that if you're the most popular on Facebook, that's like being the richest at Monopoly.
Say that one more time.
Now, if you're the most popular on Facebook with all these hits, that's like being the richest at Monopoly.
Right.
Okay?
I've always equated to having a number one hit in Guam.
And again, I'm not denigrating any portion of social media and other sorts. Social media has its place. It has its place of advertising your existence, but not your content. Right? Your content should be just portions of this, portions of that. Let people listen to some of this stuff. Right? All right. That's it. No more. We're playing here. Come see me live. Create opportunity that way. It's going to take a little bit more footwork.
No, I get you, but let me just kind of break that down, because if the person can be easily distracted at home, you know what I mean? So they hear 30 seconds of a 5-minute tune that you got, which is great. But they got to go out of the house, they got to get in their car, they got to drive down there, they got to pay.
Good.
Good. Right?
Good.
How is it that level of distraction, or in some respects discomfort?
But are we at a crossroads as far as that physicality? I'm not going to say I think. I know we are. Because people have been stuck inside the house. They've been working from home. They've been eating craft dinner. Well, not denigrating craft dinner. It's, you know.
Please don't.
All right.
It's the one thing I can cook.
All right, sorry. I mean, you're talking to an Italian here. I'm sorry.
I know, I shouldn't
Anyone-
even admit that to an Italian.
Anybody that spells macaroni the way they do it's just not right. I'd fill them in another way. But it is sustenance. I get it. Okay, but you know where I'm coming from to say if you try a different aspect of presentation and make it available, therein lies that opportunity. And the opportunity, in my view, right now, has been totally remiss. And our expectations, as such, is to say, yeah, I remember that gig we had in 1970. Yeah, okay, yeah, you got, you know, so how many people played the Millennium? I didn't. I know guys that made like $1,500 that night.
Oh, I made 12.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah,
Glad.
yeah,
Glad.
yeah,
It's 22 years ago.
right. Well, it was a one-time event.
Right.
Well, a one-time event until 3,000, yeah.
Right? Okay, so let's hope we can live that long. But I doubt that will happen. Okay, just throwing that out there.
Who's to say? I mean,
Who's
if
to say?
Elon just took over Twitter, he can
Yeah.
get me out of this
But again, it's
mortal coil.
it's relative towards what opportunity you create with the environment that exists today. Do we have people that are more socially, not inept, but socially devoid? Yes.
Explain that. Define that.
They're getting a lot of their entertainment through the screen, through their computer, and through whatever, and not seeing what it's like live.
Not partaking in that valuable, necessary part of what community
Right.
that that gives you not only acceptance but accountability.
No.
Yes.
I was listening to CKWA the other day, a wonderful radio station. I contribute to them just as much. And they said it best. It said, like, there's got to be some kind of remuneration coming in here to pay for this stuff. We can't just go on love and whatever. You know, there's bills to pay. You gotta clean the place out. You gotta provide maintenance to the transmitters. You gotta provide some kind of stipend to the radio personalities, right?
Yeah. You got to pay for the heat and the lights.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So that in itself is an opportunity that they presented to the general public. Do you like the product? Yes. So some people will pay for that. But have we done that, let's say, with live music? Or are we creating an opportunity, or do we see an opportunity to do that? I'd say right now, with these past couple of years, rock and roll, babe. Let's do it.
You bring up a really amazing point about pioneership. And, you know, I think that is something that we need to look at as a society. And certainly civically, I think that we can do that. You know, the whole thing about pioneering was, if you think about the classical example of a pioneer, they saw something in the distance.
Mhm.
And they said, I want to go there. Like from the Midwest to California,
Mhm.
right? And so we got a bunch of wagons, right? We got like 16 wagons and 50 people.
Okay.
And so the first thing we got to do is, well, because I want to go, I want to see if my brothers and sisters want to go.
Okay.
So I talked to my brothers and sisters. They said, God damn it, you know, I've heard about California. Sounds like a good place to be. Let's go. So now you've initiated enough people so that you have that survival aspect attached to your thing now, right? Because you have multitudes of people. And then you start the journey. And I guess, you know, in some sense, that's what this show is about. It's not a place to sit here and bitch or just be platitudinal. It is an opportunity for us to collectivize through something like a town hall in this case, and to allow every individual, and I mean this, every individual to speak on behalf of themselves and what they want to see, on their dream, whether it's romantic or not. There are no wrong answers in this case. There is only the dream of what is possible. That's why thought experiments exist. And from that romantic, oh my God, we could never make that happen, to a pragmatic and a practical approach that could get us one or two of those romantic things that we necessarily individually on our own could never do. And so I really, you know, when you brought up that pioneer aspect of it, I really felt like I had to speak to that because I think it's so important. And I'll leave it at that. Do you want to talk about your CD for a second? And ladies and gentlemen, because this show doesn't just exist, like I said, it exists for every reason. I'm going to let you explain and say the name.
Okay. Well, I go by the name The Pan, and this was an instrumental CD that I did a number of years ago, and I named it Peligro Andante.
Peligro Andante.
And it's basically a Spanish word and an Italian word. Peligro meaning danger, and Andante means carry forward. So you talk about pioneering spirit.
Dude,
there's going to be danger.
Isn't that apropos?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
So what does it mean then, if you put the two words together?
It's danger, but carry on. It's dangerous, but carry on. Right? So, you know,
ladies and gentlemen, right there, in a nutshell.
Andante is a wonderful musical term as well, but you and I both know that. Yeah. It was recorded at Mamio Music. Our good buddy, Mr. Miles Jackson, was a recording engineer, and he contributed some wonderful keyboard work on a few tunes there, and he worked his magic. And I found out after the first recording to leave him alone and let him do his thing, because he has an uncanny ability of exposing what the song is all about, whether it be instrumental and of the sort. And I'm working on CD number 2, hopefully with a few other pitfalls to get over, that I'm going to try and release hopefully within the next month or two. And we're going to try a few vocals on this one. I figure, well, if Dylan can do it, I can do it.
And so the name of your second CD will be something like "Caution, Slippery When Wet"?
Well, I'm not gonna expose too much about what the actual title will be, but I will say this much: it's going to have a couple of instrumentals and only 2, but it will have 6 or 7 tunes with vocals.
Who?
And I'm doing no vocals, and
Nice.
I'm doing most of the instrumentation. But again, roping the talents of one Mr. Miles Jackson, and going forward, and hopefully we'll have this product available to general public, and hope they enjoy this.
So people, if they want to,
They can go to my website, www.thepan.ca, and send me an email, and yeah, if you want a digital stream copy of that, yeah, we can work something out. If you want a CD copy, I can mail that too.
Cool.
And again, making it available for, I've had some decent rapport and decent review on some of the tunes. You can have a listen to it and
I'm
tell me
gonna
what
listen
you
to
think.
it.
Again, stemming from whatever musical upbringing that I had, and you had that Oklahoman accent, and it goes back to my original music teacher, who was originally from Oklahoma, Mr. Charles Liegero, whom I admire. Just, he's like my big brother.
Yeah.
And you know, he's been my mentor as far as the musical aspect is concerned, especially for bass.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again, and I'm sure Pan feels the same way, you know, just for taking any time that you did to watch two guys talking about the important things in this town and the important things about music. The fact that each and every one of us has a voice. Like I said, I'm putting together a town hall right now, and that is your voice. It's not my voice. It's not, if there's people up on stage, it's not going to be their voice. It's your voice that matters. It's our collective voice that matters, and I would really like to have the privilege of hearing from you, as would anyone else that is on stage with this thing or that comes out to it. And I mean that sincerely. I can't mean that enough or express it in the English language enough for people to get it. I love y'all. Stay well. I'm coming at you again next week. And until then, rock and roll, man. Keep practicing. Bye for now.
Well done there, young fella.
Boom. You the man.
We the man.
Yeah, we the man.